Welcome to Critical Role Demystified. I'm Mike Christensen, and this is the series where I break down the lessons we can learn as GMs and as players from episodes of Critical Role. Today we're tackling episode 84, Loose Ends. And before we begin, I just want to give a huge thank you to the people who've been watching my recent videos. I put out 6 videos in 7 days, and the reaction to those videos has been really outstanding. I made a video about world building that inspired a bunch of awesome discussion in the comments where people were basically pitching their own approach to some of the world building aspects I'd established. That was awesome. I made a video about introducing the Cult of Vecna into my campaign as a response to something very unexpected my players did. The feedback on that video was great. A bunch of people said they would totally watch full campaign diaries if I made them, which I'm not planning on doing, not anytime soon, but it was really nice to know that people would enjoy that. That was really lovely to hear. The feedback to my latest Critical Role Demystified video was awesome. I put out a video about a dungeon I'm developing, and there was so much really fun speculation in the comments for that video. That was fantastic to read. And this week I put out a video about Matt Mercer's Resurrection Ritual rules, and that video did way better than any of my other recent videos. I was truly not expecting any of these videos to get the huge positive reaction they got. So really and truly, I am so grateful to everybody who has been watching my videos. And I also want to take this opportunity to check in with Odwick, the algorithm wizard. How you doing, Odwick? Whoa.
You have fed me well.
I see that.
The views, the likes, the comments, they nourish me.
Well, we can consider those videos your Thanksgiving feast.
I require more to sustain me. More videos, more views, more engagement.
Well, we can talk about that later. I have some videos coming up that I think you're really going to like.
Good. Then I will return at the end of the video.
Sounds good. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. Now let's talk about episode 84. Sam isn't able to attend this game, but Ashley has flown in to join them. Patrick wasn't able to make the trip this time. That's Patrick Rothfuss, who's been guest starring throughout this mini story arc, but he's Skyping in to help make sure his character gets some closure, and he's able to contribute a little bit to the session. We pick up where we left off with both subplots. Right as Grog is about to enter the temple, Kaylee appears and pushes past him to go inside. That's a really smart move to make sure we didn't miss any opportunity for Travis and the other players to do some role-playing around this. We didn't even cut to Grog, you're inside the temple with everybody else. In the last episode, Keyleth convinced Grog to go inside, and now, 1 second later, before he's even entered the building, Kaylee appears and pushes past him. Kaylee storms up to Scanlan's body and shouts about how he made her a promise. The promise to not die. Then she slaps his corpse across the face. Because he broke that promise. I did not remember that scene. That's very interesting for reasons that we will talk about in a future video in this series. Pyke tries to convince Kaylee to help resurrect him, saying that he can come back and he can be the father that she wanted. He wants to be there for her because he loves her so much. Kaylee has all of her usual defenses up. It's too late for him to be a father. I'm sure he says he loves lots of girls, so how can Kaylee put any stock in that claim? And Pyke just insists that he loves Kaylee so much more than anybody else. Kaylee says before they do anything else, she needs to go get a drink, so she leaves to find a bar. Everybody else starts gathering what they need for the ritual, and Matt says this gives Grog a moment alone with the body. Again, great move from Matt, essentially not waiting to see if other people would leave the body alone and give him a moment to talk to Scanlan. He just declares, you have a moment alone with Scanlan, because Grog really hasn't had a chance to process what happened.
This is not over. It can't be. We've done so much, and we have so much more to do, right? This is not over. Right, don't you move. Go ahead and get your shut-eye, and we'll be back. You rest here. Try not to have too much fun without us, and I'll leave.
They start getting ready for the ritual, and then when the time has come to cast it, Kaylee returns. She's drunk, but she's still focused on the task. And they begin one of Matt's resurrection rituals. I just made a whole video about these rituals, but 3 players have to make some sort of contribution, some sort of offering to help the magic, and try to improve Scanlan's chances of returning to life. And of course, we know who pretty much has to be the first person to make a contribution.
I step up, and I take my Titanstone knuckles off. I take the belt of dwarven kind off. I wrap it around the knuckles, and I lay it next to Scanlan. And I say, you've been with me through so much. I pride myself on my strength, but As we fought Earthbreaker Groon, you were there by my side, as I learned that my true strength comes from my friends. Which means that these trinkets, no matter how strong they are, mean nothing. You knew me before them, and I would hope you would know me after. And while my best buddy Pike taught me to love, you taught me to laugh. And I don't want to know what life is like without that. And the last thing I'd say is, Saint, you spent so many times inspiring me. I'd like to take a page from your book, and to the tune of the Washington Spite Song, sing, Hail to Scanlan Short Halt, hail to victory. No one can make me laugh faster. Please bring him back to me.
Obviously, this is a major moment of sacrifice. Grog is willing to take off his incredibly iconic and essential magic items, literally and figuratively setting them aside to demonstrate how much Scanlan means to him. And as a player, Travis sings the fight song for this rival football team, something that has been a source of much playful antagonism between him and Sam. But he's symbolically setting that rivalry aside and, temporarily, taking on this signifier that aligns him with this team and with Sam, to once again demonstrate how much he means to Travis, not just to Grog, but to Travis as a player. Matt has Travis roll with advantage, and he rolls a 14. We don't know this yet, but that didn't meet the DC Matt had set for this task. Presumably Matt had decided that a DC 15 was a good starting point for this effort, and unfortunately that means Grog failed to contribute. So behind the screen, Matt raises the death DC for the final roll of this ritual from 12 to 13. But of course, Travis and the other players don't know that. They think 14 was a pretty good roll, so they're off to a good start. Pike goes next. She produces the doll of Scanlan that she has, that he made for her during their courtship. This is the counterpart of one that he had of her, which he used to bring her back to life. Now she's returning the favor. And she also wrote a poem.
Here lies Scanlan the bard, a gnome who sang soft but died hard. To anyone who hears us, both far and wide, bring us back our dirty friend at least one more time. He may not be tall or brute or rough. He may be little, but his heart is buff. We are a party, and every party needs a clown. Without our friend to rein us in, we'll burn down your whole fucking town. You see, I love this gnome very much. He's small like me, but he's touched. He's raided and slain. He's pooped while he sang. But if he's gone forever, I won't be the same. Now that he's learned he's a dad, the journey that all of us had cannot be in vain, will not be in waste. Please, Scanlan, open your eyes and see your daughter's face.
Matt doesn't want this to be another persuasion check. He doesn't like having multiple players making the same checks, so he has Pike make a performance roll, again with advantage. I imagine the advantages are because these are good ideas and his players have really brought everything they have to the table. But it also might be because he knows he's asking these players to roll things that they're not good at. Pike and Grog don't have especially high charisma scores, but they're absolutely using charisma skills in this scene. Fortunately, Pike rolls a natural 20. We don't know what DC Matt had set for this, but a natural 20 definitely clears it, very comfortably so. This means the death DC for the final roll goes down from 13 to 10. And at this point, Kaylee gets up on the altar to perform her violin. After all, they brought her here for a reason. They brought her here so she could contribute to the ritual. Before she performs, Vax reaches out and uses the lay on hands to clear her mind of the alcohol, probably to help make sure she's not going to wind up rolling with disadvantage due to drunkenness. She performs and Matt rolls behind the screen. We don't see the results, but he later says it was a 14, which was a success, so this brings the DC down to 7. I think it's interesting that the DC was lower for this task. Presumably it was like a 10. Maybe because Scanlan is a musician. Maybe because this is his daughter. I don't know, but that seems like that was Matt's rationale. Also, holy crap, this bard only got a 14 on her performance roll? That's not very good. He must have rolled really low behind the screen. Kind of grateful he did it on that roll, and not the next one. Because now it's time for him to make his final roll behind the screen, to see if Matt can clear the death DC of 7, and the ritual works. He rolls and he takes a picture of it, and posts it on Twitter, which is a website that people used to use, because they liked being on it. I'm not really sure. We're not really sure why we did, but we did. It wasn't as full of Nazis at the time, if that helps. But he also looks down the barrel of the camera, and he assures the audience that what they're seeing was the real role. And of course, the players also have Twitter on their phones. Again, this used to be like a normal thing to do back before it was completely full of Nazis. So Marisha sees the push notification that her boyfriend posted a picture, and so she just looks at her phone and immediately sees that he rolled a natural 20. Matt describes the end of this ritual with magic culminating with a dramatic flourish. And slowly, Scanlan starts breathing again, and Matt tells the players about his dice. He says that he rolled a natural 20, he tells them the DC was 7, and he tells them there were 2 successes and 1 failure. The players don't seem to register that. They don't realize what he just said, and they kind of don't seem to realize somebody failed the ritual. And they certainly don't know that it was Grog. Right now, they're just overjoyed that Scanlan is alive. Of course, he's still asleep, and when Keyleth makes her medicine check on him, Matt says that he's in a borderline comatose state. He's just recovering from the death and the resurrection. He'll be okay, he'll wake up on his own, but it could be minutes or days before he wakes up. The party just doesn't know. Because obviously the players don't know how much time is going to play out in this session where Sam is absent, so Matt can't guarantee any amount of time that Scanlan will be unconscious. This is a pretty smart solution to that problem. It's also consistent with what we've seen in the past. When Percy was killed and brought back to life, he didn't actually wake up until Vax used Lay on Hands to give him a few extra hit points. So Matt has already set the precedent that sometimes resurrection leaves you with a bit of a system shock. I mean, that is also just part of the rules of the resurrection magic in the game, is you just need time to recover. You have these negatives to all of your skills and all your rolls until you've slept a couple of different days. But this is sort of an enhanced version of that for the very obvious reason that Sam just isn't going to be at the table until the next game, so he's extra knocked out. They take Scanlan's body back to the castle so he can rest in his room. On the way, they run into Allura, who's very happy Scanlan's alive, and then she starts talking about how she's going to have to go back to Amon soon, after she rests, obviously. But she still has to get back to the capital to help get the government running again. I think this is a subtle move from Matt to get the players to start thinking about where they should go next. And if that's the case, that's extremely clever, really well done. We already know that, left to their own devices, the players will easily spend an entire session doing absolutely nothing, especially the episode after a dragon fight. It would not remotely be out of the question for them to spend the rest of this session at a tavern, which is what they did the episode after they brought Percy back to life. But now Allura has mentioned that she's going back to Amon tomorrow, and this gets the players thinking about what they're going to do next. Do they want to tag along with her, or not? If not, why not? Would that be because there's somewhere else they'd rather be instead? Matt has spent a lot of downtime sessions in this campaign trying to get the players to not spend the entire session doing random bullshit, or at the very least trying to figure out what they're going to do next so we can, get through the story arc a little bit faster, and at the very least so Matt can prep whatever they're going to do in the next session. And even though the dragons are all dead and this story arc is over, they still have other things they need to do. And Allura mentioning she has to go back to Amon tomorrow is going to get the players thinking about where they need to go and what they need to do. At this point, Matt cuts back to Vex in Kymel with Eskel, sharing a drink with Dranzel, because as far as they know, Scanlan is still dead. Then Vex goes to bed, just wondering if the ritual was successful. Too bad nobody let her know. But this is a good bit of pacing for Matt to cut to her. Vex is about as split from the party as you can get, and Laura probably knew that they were not going to cut back to her before the ritual was complete. But once it was clear that the ritual was a success, that Scanlan was okay but just needs some time to recover, and once Matt has used Allura to remind the players to think about where they want to go next, he can cut back to Vex and check in with her. But then when they cut back to Whitestone, Keyleth asks Allura to send Vex a message and let her know Scanlan is alive. And Marisha says that she was going to do this already, she just didn't get a chance before they cut away. But she's basically saying she's not metagaming, this was part of the plan. Carrick shares a drink with Grog in Scanlan's room, and Carrick is still stunned to actually see somebody get brought back to life. He asks a lot of probing questions about the nature of the magic that brings someone back. Does it always work? Have you ever brought somebody back without their body? What kind of limits are there to this magic? He seems to just kind of have this wariness over the players having this much power over life and death. Percy and Pike also join them for a drink.
I'm going to wander into the room with a nod. Just sit for a moment.
Wait. Prove that you're you.
No.
It's you.
Thank you. It's not fair, is it?
What?
Well, just one day you lose so many people, and then just one day you stop. And at what point in your life you decide that suddenly, for no reason, you're just not allowed to die yet. Your life isn't your own anymore. Suddenly you've done what you were supposed to do, and now you're back. And it's just not yours anymore, is it? And what of everybody else? It's not fair. any of it. I don't know.
You don't think your life is your own?
I know my life isn't my own. My life is all of yours. My life is my sister's. My life is this castle's. My life ended.
Do you feel...
I'm very glad to be here. I just miss an awful lot of people, that's all. And I don't understand how we get to choose.
In my last video, I talked about how Matt Mercer has been trying to figure out how to make death matter in his games, when ultimately the mechanics behind Resurrection in D&D essentially make that an uphill battle, if not actually fully impossible. However, there's one thing we didn't really factor into this, and that's the fact that very experienced players like Patrick and Taliesin already spend a lot of time thinking about the ramifications of what it would actually be like to live in a D&D world. They think about the toll that resurrection would take on your mind. They think about the inherent unfairness of being able to resurrect your fellow party members, but not the dead people in your backstory. And here's the thing. They may not have an answer that actually makes sense from a world-building perspective. They may not be able to close the logic loop you want to figure out why death in D&D works the way it does. But they might be able to give you something a lot more useful than that. The dramatic context for what death and resurrection actually means to them as characters and how it guides their decisions. Of course, Percy feels like his life ended when he was killed by Ripley and that he's only here because the other players willed him to be here. That is literally what happened. And so you can understand why he feels like he no longer has a lot of control over his own fate. That makes perfect sense given everything he's gone through. Of course, it would feel unfair to him that Scanlan, this lecherous little gremlin, got to come back to life, but none of Percy's family could. It is unfair. Death is unfair, and resurrection is unfair. At least, for the people in the world of the game. Ironically, the system is pretty fair for the players. Obviously, Taliesin knows why they could bring back Sam's character, but not the people that he had already established were dead in his backstory. Obviously, everyone at the table knows why they moved heaven and earth to bring Percy back to life, but when they found Tiberius's body, they respectfully laid him to rest rather than trying to resurrect him. The characters all know that the rules of life and death and resurrection center on the player characters, and doesn't seem to be available to everybody else in the world. But the player characters don't have any of that context. They don't understand why certain characters get the benefit of resurrection magic, and others don't. And Percy can't really reconcile that. He doesn't have a philosophy that justifies it, other than this idea that he's now not exactly living on borrowed time, but instead he's sort of here as an agent of those who brought him back. He's here because the people he left behind said, "We're not done with you yet." And his character would, very reasonably, have a lot of conflicted feelings about that. And Pike understands. She's been there too. She also died. So is Grog, but he doesn't really think about stuff like that. For him, resurrection magic has just worked on the people he loves. And since his circle is so small, he's really only ever worried about the resurrection of his friends and not the broader implications of that. However, once they're done with the model and stuff, Percy and Pike decide to play a prank on sleeping Scanlan. So when he wakes up, he'll be confused and think there was some sort of weird ritual, which, I mean, there kind of was, but not the kind they want to make it seem like there was. They decide to put him in one of Pike's nightgowns and slather pudding on the walls, making it seem like there was some sort of drunken night of debauchery, as well as some magic. They write some cryptic words in the pudding. Carrick watches all this, and you think maybe they're going to get a lecture about how they're treating their friend, but instead, he suggests they could use ribbons to tie him to the bedposts. What a glorious idea. Vex receives the psychic message that Scanlan is alive. We cut back to her, and she goes downstairs to the bar, which is almost empty, and she buys a very expensive drink for everyone who's there. It's like 4 people. And she buys some ale for her bear, who is now out of her necklace. And just has a night of celebration alone, well, with the company of the lonely people around her, like in Piano Man. They're drinking a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. Only for her, this is a drink of celebration. And this scene also includes a clip that I see circulated a lot. It comes up in a lot of highlight reels from the show where Matt does this sound effect for popping a cork out of a bottle and utterly blows Liam's mind.
Just goes ahead and like empties, fills 3.
We've been playing this game 3 years. You wait 3 years to pull out that brand new sound effect of a cork coming out the bottle.
It's been a long time alone.
Wow. Wow.
Vax spends the night in his temple to the Raven Queen, his armor laid out on the altar, just meditating on his goddess. And Matt tells him that Vax feels like the fact that the Raven Queen brought Scanlan back to life must mean she still has a plan for them. And Matt says that this worries Vax, because obviously they can't see what other sorts of dangers they have in their future and what sort of quests the Raven Queen must have for them but there must be something big still coming their way, even if they can't begin to guess what it might be. Now, normally, I don't like it when Matt tells the players how their characters feel. But I like it here, because this is essentially a promise from Matt that he has another grand purpose coming for them. Because at some point around the end of the Chroma Conclave storyline, I don't know exactly when, but Matt did apparently talk to the players and ask whether they wanted to bring the campaign to a close after this storyline or keep going. They decided to keep going. But Matt is not about to drop the next major plot in their laps immediately after the end of the Chroma Conclave storyline. He doesn't, I think, feel like that would be very realistic. And he is going to start lining up whatever he has in store for them. He's preparing for the endgame. But in the meantime, he wants to give them the time to actually go on some self-directed quests, to go take care of some other things they've been putting off during the Chroma Conclave storyline. But in this scene, he's basically asking his players to trust him and rest assured that he does know where the story is going. And I really like that he found a way to deliver that message to one of his players within the context of the game itself. It's really smart. Especially since that's the player who was particularly frustrated the last time they had just a couple episodes of self-directed quest time, and he felt so frustrated that they didn't have a major quest keeping them going. Well, now he's being told, don't worry, there is another quest coming, just be patient and it will come. And I think that is just really clever dungeon mastering. In the morning, Vex returns to Whitestone with Eskel, and she goes to the Temple of the Raven Queen and finds Vax naked, his armor still on the altar, just naked as the day he was born. The day they were born. But, she's not loving seeing that.
I turned my back to him so I can open my damn eyes.
Okay.
What are you doing sleeping in here?
Give her a naked hug from behind.
Ah, creepy! Get off! Fucking gross.
Oh, we used to take baths together. What? What's so funny?
And as they talk, Vax asks Vex, what's next? The dragons are dead, and obviously he knows there's another quest coming, but what he's really asking here is she going to stay in Whitestone? Because he's probably going to go to Zephyr with Keyleth. He's kind of asking, where are they all going to go settle down? Where are they going to make their lives? Are the twins going to live in different cities? She says, let's not talk about this right now. It's a happy day. Scanlan's alive. It's not a time for sad things. And obviously, I don't think that Vex thinks it would be sad if she stayed in Whitestone and made a life with Percy, and she doesn't think it would be sad if her brother made a life with Keyleth. But the idea that the twins might not be together, that is a sad idea for them. They've been inseparable for their entire lives. Just the fact that Vax was getting into a relationship with Keyleth caused quite a stir between the twins. It was a whole thing, you might recall, because the twins are very close. Vex isn't ready to talk about the fact that they might have to separate for a while. Besides, they still have other things to do on their to-do list. They're still going to go on some shared adventures together. They don't really need to talk about this right now. So they go back to the castle, they join the party, and they talk about next steps. Allura and Kima are going to Amon, so the party's going to tag along with them for the ride and check in on Amon as well. They're going to leave Scanlan here. Keeper Yennon is going to look after him with any healing that needs to be done. The servants have instructions to take care of him and change his knots. And Kaylee's staying here because she wants to see his face when he wakes up. So Allura teleports the party to Amon. And when they arrive, they see the city is recovering. But almost immediately, Carrick gets greeted with a sock on the jaw from Samantha, the ally he put in charge of his friends from Western. They're ready to go. They've just been waiting on him. And so, Carrick says his goodbyes to the party. And he walks off into the sunset. At this point, they go to break so they can take down the TV screen that Patrick's been displayed on. But when they come back from break, they still have to figure out what they're doing with the rest of the episode. Grok suggests they go bury the box of ashes in Vasselheim, the box they were given by Senecure in the Plane of Fire, the box containing the ashes of Senecure's dead wife. Well, according to Senecure. More on that later. And Keyleth points out they can also drop off Ripley's hand in Ank'Harel to let that syndicate know that she was killed, that they avenged the member of that syndicate. But Vex wants to make sure they aren't needed here, and Vax is worried that the clasp will take over if they don't help out here. So they check in with Allura. Do we need to help get the government back up and running? And Matt, as Allura, basically takes a few different tactics to say, nah, we're good, go do some D&D adventures. You can't help here.
Well, the problem is, Uriel was killed when the dragons attacked. Nothing else was ever set in place after that.
It's true. Who was acting as
Thordak?
When Sovereign was slain, part of his instruction was to hand power entirely over to the council. So we are still the power structure of the city. It's more of a localized republic. We need to enforce that structure. While you take to what business you need, I'm going to try the best I can to amass the remaining members of that council and install some sort of political structure here now.
And we have the rest of the royal family in Whitestone.
Yes, Solda and the children are currently there. We've kept them safe, and they will be given... Solda will most likely be placed on the council, as she has quite a bit of knowledge and experience as well, and to keep memory. If we can recover his body or some semblance of it, I will also see that there is a monument built to the memory of the Sovereign, so...
And you think you've got a handle on getting a foothold here?
I think if I can find one or two of my friends, definitely.
Do you need help in finding your friends?
Yeah. Your strengths are best tended to elsewhere. Don't worry. I know MacLeod is around, and me and him have a good rapport, and he has the military at his back. So, if anything goes south or wrong, I know how to let you know. So much as you stay on this realm, don't go vanishing to other planes without letting me know, please. Please, no.
Not for a bit.
She makes it clear that she already has a plan in place. She points out that she has contacts who are able to help, and they're already in Amon. She says Vox Machina has a very clear skill set that is not necessarily statecraft. And, maybe the most vitally, she says she can get a hold of them if she needs them. She can use sending to get them a message. That should be all they need to hear. But she also says that the sending spell works best if they stay on the same plane of existence, so don't go to another reality just yet. AKA, don't go to the Nine Hells to slay Hodis the Rakshasa, because Sam isn't here. But he'll be back next week, so please just go on a short quest that we can bang out in this episode. Vex asks Allura to identify the box and just make sure there's nothing else they need to know. Is it just a box of ashes? There's nothing sinister about it? Allura says there's a little magical protection around it, but she can't tell any more than that. They get the Boots of Elvenkind back from Kima. They say their goodbyes. She thanks them for everything they've done, including putting up with her and all of her brashness. And then she does ask one more favor from them.
Now, if you guys end up actually going back to Vasselheim, and Mr. Vord starts coming out and asking questions, tell him you haven't seen me.
You got it.
Lie.
No. Just tell me you haven't seen me.
Well, I have seen you.
Tell him you haven't.
Well,
You are the cutest thing sometimes.
They let Allura know that Greyskull Keep is available for any refugees who don't have homes anymore. Then Vox Machina quickly visits the keep just to make sure it's still in good condition. Grog goes downstairs just looking for anything interesting he may be able to find in Percy's workshop, but he doesn't find anything. He runs into Vax on the way out and pretends he was down here looking for an intruder and not trying to steal supplies or anything. But Vax takes this opportunity to thank Grog for saving Scanlan. He did a good thing by bringing him back to life. He says I love you to Grog. Then he slaps Grog in the face really quickly and darts away. And Grog just thinks about all this. It's a really nice moment for these two, who the last time they were in this particular room together were just coming off of a pretty severe argument a couple episodes earlier. However, before they go to Vasselheim, before they go to bury the box, they have to talk about it. Because Pike and Ashley do not fucking trust this box. She's worried this is part of some evil plan to corrupt Vasselheim or bury the seed of an ancient demon beneath this tree or something. They don't know what it could be. They have no reason to distrust it, no clues that they're going off of, just the fact that they keep getting betrayed as they view it. They investigate it some more, but every time they look into it, Matt tells them it seems fine, there's nothing that worries them. But obviously he doesn't just say, it's definitely a box of ashes, because they haven't opened it yet. They don't know that for sure. All they can get is, it seems fine. You don't see anything that worries you. But of course, they're still worried. Pike is the primary voice of concern, but she's not totally alone. They all completely understand where she's coming from. They all know they've been burned a number of times, and as they try to convince her to trust the box and just do this nice thing, sometimes it kind of does sound like they're trying to convince themselves as well. They were asked to bury this box in the Abundant Terrace in Vasselheim, and they roll a history check to see if people typically bury ashes in that district. And they learn that it's not common. It's not where the dead typically go. It's a special request from Senekir, which just adds to their paranoia. One of their other arguments is that if Senekir was telling the truth and he just wanted to bury his wife's ashes, but didn't do it himself because he hadn't had the chance to make the trip, they're not sure they believe that. Wouldn't you make a trip for something that important? I will actually point out that one of my wife's family members has ashes that were meant to be spread somewhere very important to her, but that has not happened yet, and it's been like 2 years, because sometimes it's hard to make the time to take a trip like that. Life gets in the way. And we're not even talking about somebody going to another plane of existence, like Senekir's wife requested from Senekir. Now, granted, it's a little bit strange to pass this task off to somebody else. I understand that. You would think that Senekir would actually want to come along and see the ashes get buried, but You know, not everyone might feel that way. They might just be happy the deed is done. And also, this is very video gamey, right? Like the idea of like, oh, take this significant thing and go do it. Yeah, it's just a little quest for the party. It's not a big deal. It makes perfect sense to me that that's what Matt would have come up with and not really thought through like, well, would it really make sense for Senecure to do that? Yeah, sure, why not? But even though some members of the party are very uneasy about it still, they do agree to go, and as a bit of a concession to those who are worried about it, they'll ask around and see if anybody in the neighborhood remembers Senecure's wife. That would help confirm that she was from this area, that she was who she said she was, that this is a legitimate request. Before we go into the next section, I want you to know that this is a legitimate request. After the campaign was over, Matt confirmed that it was just a box of ashes, nothing sinister. Sure, Senecure was a weird dude, but he was just earnestly asking them to do him this favor. There's nothing nefarious going on here. So as his players arrive in Vasselheim, I want you to be completely aware that Matt is trying to indicate to his players that they can bury this box and everything will be fine. So they walk through the tree, they arrive in the Abundant Terrace, this magically enchanted forest and year-round farmland in the center of Vasselheim, untouched by the bitter cold and snow of this region. Senecure asked them to bury these ashes beneath the Birth Heart, a huge tree in the center of the district, which also has some rooms and chambers inside. It's like one of those tree buildings from Lord of the Rings. So they did that. They're supposed to bury these ashes under this important, sacred, central tree. That's a little worrying. They ask just some random passerby in this district if they know Senecure's wife, if they know Zalfin, and they don't, because Matt's thinking, you know, this is a big city. Not everyone would know everybody. But that also kind of helps add to the paranoia as well. But as they walk around the forest, Matt describes how they see a couple of, not very often, but a couple of small piles of stones, which seem like they're probably grave markers. So even though this is not the death district of the city, even though Matt said it's unusual, evidently it's not completely unheard of to bury your dead here. They speak to one of the worshippers of Melora, and she says that they can bury someone's ashes here, that's fine. Returning your body to the earth that produced you is a wonderful way to venerate nature and the goddess who makes it possible, Melora. They just need one of the worshippers to act as a witness to make sure everything they're doing is above board. This feels like a very clear signal from Matt that what's happening is actually cool and kosher and exactly what was asked of them. No funny business happening. But also, even if there was something sinister about burying this particular box, the locals are prepared for that. They have a system to watch. They know when something is buried here. Ashley still asks if they need to open the box to lay the ashes at rest, because she wants to have an excuse to have to open the box, to confirm it's just ashes inside. The worshipper says, I mean, if that's what the deceased wanted, you can bury the whole box or dump the ashes inside. It's not really our concern. But this worshipper also says that these disciples of Melora will keep vigil over the box for a while to make sure there's nothing funky inside. Not that they don't trust you, of course, but it's just policy to make sure that only remains are buried and not anything else. Again, that's Matt trying to help put his players' minds at ease. These presumably powerful priests and druids are going to watch everything that gets deposited here to make sure that it's done right. So if there's anything in this box that shouldn't be there, that's going to do anything nefarious, there are people here who are going to catch it. So the party finds a suitable spot at the base of a tree, they dig a hole, and Ashley very, very, very reluctantly hands over the box. They say a little prayer to Melora to make sure that she knows that they appreciate her help in the Raishon fight, and also to make it clear that they're not burying anything nefarious on purpose, so if something happens, it is not their fault. They were just doing what they were asked to do. They're not doing anything untoward. They're asked not to make a grave marker with a name or an engraving. That's not really how they do things here. So Keyleth uses stone shape to create a stone ring, because Senecure is a jeweler. This is his wife, so she probably wore a ring. A ring feels appropriate. So they make a stone wreath on the ground and they lay it as a marker. And just to cut ahead a little bit, after the campaign, when Matt makes it very clear that these were just normal ashes, Ashley admits she still doesn't believe him. She just cannot shake this idea that they cannot trust Senecure. Vox Machina asks if they can go inside the giant tree. I don't think they have a good reason. They just want to see what's inside it. Seems like a cool bit of world building. They think it seems neat. The worshipper says they need permission from the priests in order to go inside, and Keyleth actually mentions she wants to talk to the priests anyway. She has this vestige, the Spire of Conflux, which used to belong to a priest of Melora. You know, she's been on this sort of journey of faith. Maybe she has some other questions about that, but as soon as she mentions the spire, the worshipper looks at the staff and gasps. This is an important relic of Melora. And the worshipper asks if Keyleth would be willing to leave it here to hand it off to the priests. Matt has just thrown a moral conundrum at Marisha. Are you going to give up this awesome magical artifact that these priests believe belongs to them? If not, how are you going to justify that to them? This is something that I think was probably bound to happen with one of the vestiges at some point. It makes sense that some religious order would want one of these vestiges back, but it can't happen with Vax because he's the champion of the Raven Queen. We assume that he has the blessing of their literal god to walk around with his armor, so the other priests assume the same thing. And they're all correct about that, by the way. It can't really happen with Grog either, because the main priest of Cord that we've interacted with is Earthbreaker Grun, and he's been kind of acting as Grog's mentor since before he got the gauntlets. He sent Grog on the mission to go get the gauntlets, so he's probably not going to ask for them back and demand that they're these holy relics that have to be locked away or used by the priests only. Doesn't really seem like his vibe, although we'll interact with Earthbreaker Groon a little bit more at the end of this episode and into the next episode, so we'll see if something happens there, if they get brought up, but that does not seem like that's really where Matt is going with that storyline. Now, something like this could happen with Pike. She's wearing armor linked to the god Pelor. She's not a follower of Pelor, but they haven't really run into any priests of Pelor. And also, Ashley is here so rarely, it almost feels cruel to take one of the small windows of time they have with her and use that as an opportunity to potentially take away one of the few magic items she has compared to the rest of the party. The vestiges used by Percy and Vex and Scanlan are not religious relics, and neither is the dagger wielded by Vax. So maybe some arcane wielder could ask for these, but you can just tell them to screw off. And they're not really linked, as far as we know, to any particular culture. People who might say, either this belongs in a museum, or this does not belong in a museum, or in your hands, this belongs back with our people. There's not really any obvious sign we've seen that that's going to happen with these. So that pretty much only leaves Keyleth. And she's also the perfect candidate for this conundrum, because she actually has been dabbling with having a little bit more faith. She's been on this minor quest of sorts to learn a little bit more about Melora, and about just her relationship with the gods in general. And during the fight with Raishan, it seemed like she finally found a balance that works for her, where she doesn't mistrust the gods as much as she used to, and she could potentially even call upon them for help to deal with a common enemy. Something that seems like it would have been impossible for the character we saw back in episode 8 or 9, when she was in conflict with Lady Kima. Back in the beginning of the campaign, she has really come a long way since then. Additionally, Keyleth as a character is always worried about the party doing things responsibly and not just blowing through town, going on a D&D adventure, and leaving without any regard to how they're leaving things better than they found them. But also, Marisha's a D&D player, and she doesn't want to give up this cool magic item. And to be honest, most of the other characters have that exact same mindset. I can't think of any of them who would even be tempted to hand over their iconic magic item because it had some religious significance to somebody else. As far as all these other characters are concerned, they're going to do more good with this artifact than any priests ever could. The only reason this works as a moral conundrum for Keyleth is because she struggles against that same tendency to just dismiss everything they do as morally justified because they say it is. That's exactly why she was upset with Kima way back in the day. She just didn't like the idea that someone could just decide what they're doing is morally justified and not back it up and not actually feel like they're doing the right thing. Keyleth wants to make sure they're not just coming up with justifications to do the things they already wanted to do. She wants to make sure they are doing the right thing every time. And that's often very difficult to do. And so this is the perfect test for her as a character. Will she insist that they need this item to save the world and so she doesn't feel like she has to give it back, even though the world is not in active jeopardy right now? Will she just give over this item and resign herself to the fact that she will have one less cool magic item than the rest of the party? Will she try to work out some sort of arrangement where the priests hold onto it, but she can come and request it when the world is in danger? Does she think that's going to work, given how little help they've ever gotten from Vasselheim, unless they felt the situation directly impacted the city? This is a really cool, really strong moral conundrum. So it's kind of a shame that Matt just lets her off the hook like 1 minute later. Keyleth starts to explain that this relic was lost for a long time, so even though she doesn't want to, hold on to something that the priests rightfully feel is theirs, she wonders how much of a claim they have to it if they didn't have it for so long now, and besides, it's been really useful, and she's kind of just rambling because she very obviously is uncomfortable. This is a difficult situation for her to be in. But then this worshiper says, look, I'm not trying to take this away from you, it's ultimately your choice, whether to give it to us or keep it for yourself. I don't think that's a terrible move on Matt's part. I think if you're presenting a moral conundrum to a character like Keyleth, it's a lot more interesting and, I'd say, devastating for them to just say, we're not going to force you to do something, we're going to trust you to do the right thing. This is going to torture her far more than a priest insisting this relic belongs to them and they must hand it over. That's just not going to work the same way for her. Whereas being sort of nice and generous and leaving it in her hands, I think is far more effective. However, then this worshiper says, if you say it's been lost for a long time and you feel like it's helping you do good, then maybe just give it back to us when you're done with it. And thus this moral conundrum is over almost as soon as it started. And I do kind of wish Matt had just left it at that first statement. I wish he had just had the NPC say that it was ultimately Keyleth's choice, and then let Keyleth figure out how to express the fact that she wants to keep it. Because obviously she wants to keep it, she wants to find a good reason to do so, but she wants to keep it. That being said, I've absolutely done this myself in my games. I've given my players the opportunity to make their case to an NPC to try to convince them of something, and then sometimes I'll think of an argument that I would make if I was a player, and so I'll have this NPC kind of be more understanding than they normally would be, because they're basically making this argument on behalf of the players that I would make if I was in the player's shoes. They kind of devil's advocate themselves into agreeing with the party. And before you know it, I've let the players off the hook for the challenge I was giving them. So just know that when I talk about how I wish Matt had done something different here, that I think he made a mistake in this scene, I feel that way because I have seen the same behavior from myself. And I think I understand where it comes from. I think It comes from seeing somebody trying to make an argument and you realize there's a better way to make it that could get them off the hook, so you kind of have the NPC make it themselves. But I don't recommend you do this, and it's not something that I want to do going forward, where the NPCs basically figure out where the players are getting before they get there, and they just walk themselves to that conclusion on their own. I think it undercuts the tension of the scene in a way that I hadn't really... I've thought about it in the past, but it really reminded me of how bad I am about this sometimes. Not often, but sometimes, when I saw this scene and I saw this dramatic moment fizzle. So, before they leave Vasselheim, because we're almost done with the episode, but before they leave, Grog wants to go visit the Trial Forge. So they go there and they find Earthbreaker Grun waiting in the sand pit. He says that he's been watching the party from afar. He sees that the Grog has found his true strength. But now, he wants Grog to show him what he's learned. And they get ready to fight. And that's where this episode ends, with a promise that the next episode is going to contain an epic fight. Unfortunately, they're more right than they realize. Because the next full episode of Critical Role that we're going to cover in this series is episode 85, A Bard's Lament. And I know people are so excited for me to cover that, and they have been for a long time. But I'm actually not going to make a video about it next week.
You were tasked with making weekly Demystified videos.
I know, and I will, but that episode needs a little bit of extra time. I have no idea how I'm going to cover everything I want to in that video, and so I definitely can't turn it around in just 1 week. But I am going to make another Demystified video next week.
Ah, yes. You have been commissioned by your patrons to make Demystified videos of some Critical Role one-shots. Of course, I understand. Next week, you will review one of their bonus episodes.
I do have more bonus episodes I need to review that I have been commissioned to make by my patrons, but that's actually not what I'm going to do next week either.
You have been commanded to make weekly Demystified videos.
I know, and I have been sticking to that task. And so I figured maybe with all the videos I made in the past week, I might be able to earn a little bit of goodwill from you.
I will not absolve you of your mandate.
I know. I am still going to make a Demystified video next week. It's just going to be a little bit different.
Explain.
Well, I figured now might be the time to make the ultimate Demystified video.
You mean...
Yeah. Next week, I'm going to make a video about how to get started watching Critical Role. Now, that's a topic I've already covered way back in the day, and I typically never remake videos on this channel, but so much has changed in the past few years. We're in a completely different era now. I think I also understand what people want from a video like that better than I did before, and I don't think my previous video delivered on what people were looking for. So just this once, I'm going to cover a topic I've already covered, and I'm hoping that you're cool with that. I'm hoping that considering all the videos I've been putting out lately, much more so than usual, videos that did pretty well and made you feel really good, obviously, I'm hoping that you can allow me to make this video and it would still count towards the rules of the curse, and you'll sort of look past the fact that it's a remake.
Oh, I like it when you remake videos.
Really?
Of course. If a video performed well once, you should make it again, and again, and feed the algorithm.
Right. Okay, so we're good. Next week can be a Demystified video about how to get started watching Critical Role.
Yes, and I shall feast on this video.
I mean, I don't really know how the video is going to do. I hope it does well. I hope people watch it, but I can't know for sure that it's going to do well.
Nevertheless, I approve. Make your video. Feed the algorithm.
I mean, I really make these videos to feed my family, but yeah, I'm sure you'll be happy too. Thank you, Odwick.
And then the following week, A Bard's Lament.
No, probably not, but I think you're going to be really happy with the video I have coming out that week. It's another Demystified video. In fact, it was going to be part of the video I just mentioned, the How to Start Watching video, but it kind of had to be its own topic.
Fine. I will allow that to count as a Demystified video. And then, A Bard's Lament.
And then A Bard's Lament. That video will definitely be out by the end of the year.
I accept your terms. This month, I will be nourished by your videos.
Sounds good to me. I hope you get a lot out of them. And I hope all of you enjoyed those videos too. I have no control over which videos perform well with the algorithm. As much as I would like to put out videos that I know will do well, I have no idea what videos will do well and what won't, but I'm hoping that these videos I have planned are going to help the community at least a little bit, with people who are trying to get into Critical Role and have a lot of questions, and I think I've done a bad job answering them in the past, or avoided answering some of these questions because I felt the answers were obvious. I think that's not the case anymore, and I'm hoping that these videos do a good job of clarifying questions that people have and meeting my own standards for what I expect from my videos, and meeting your standards for what you expect from my videos, that I tackle these subjects from all the angles that I can and do so with nuance. And so, whether or not these do well in the algorithm, I hope you watch them and I hope you like them. And of course, elephant in the room, if you feel any mixed feelings about the fact that all this engagement helps to fuel Oddwick the algorithm wizard and the weird dynamic we have right now, just trust me. I know what I'm doing. You keep commenting, keep liking my videos, keep sharing them around, keep subscribing. It's all part of the plan. So just make sure to spread some love to my other videos. For example, like I mentioned earlier, I put out a video about building a dungeon that's going to be structured around all these different warring factions. It's going to be really fun to see that continue to develop in future videos, because it's just been fun watching people speculate in the comments about what mysteries I've got going on in that dungeon, picking up on some clues that I've been dropping very deliberately. Some people guessing accurately what I'm hinting at, some people guessing incorrectly, but those guesses are still cool. I genuinely love that this video has gotten such great feedback. So if you missed that video and you haven't been able to be a part of that conversation, check it out right here. Until next time, play fair and have fun.